that Debbie Kelly had emailed the LDFA reports back in November. Adam has just added it to the agenda. So under committee items 4, there will be a letter J, LDFA reports, and I think board docs already reflects that since Adam just changed it. So looking for a motion. Motion and support additions or other deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment. Anybody from the public wishing to speak, you have 5 minutes to address the board. Please state your name.
Good morning and thank you. I'm John Filveri. I'm currently an Jackson County Airport Board member and also a member of the JAX Policy Committee. And I'm here to seek your support, recommendation for a reappointment to the Airport Board, a new 2-year term starting in January. My association with the airport goes back exactly 40 years ago this month when I came to Jackson to fly for Consumers, what was then Consumers Power, and flew for them for 12 years as a corporate pilot, and then left them to launch into a 25-year airline career with Piedmont Airlines and US Air. And upon my retirement from them, I became Director of Aviation Technology at JCC and ran the program for 3 years. And some of my other airport-related activities have been served on the Airport Advisory Council and also a member of the Jackson Flight Fund. And the primary beneficiary of the Flight Fund at the time I was on it was the JCC Aviation Program, which was in dire straits at the time. Also been a member of the Hot Air Jubilee Committee, organizing the air show in conjunction with the Balloon Festival. And I'm also an owner and operator of 2 aircraft out at the airport. Again, I heartily seek your recommendation to the county commissioners for my reappointment to the airport board. Thank you.
Morning. My name's Ted Coleman. I'm seeking reappointment to the Jackson Library Board. I'm a Jackson resident for 23 years, 12 of those as Senior Vice President at Jacobson's, and 11 years I'm president of my own company and I do financial coaching for retirees. I've been a board member for 5.5 years. I'm on the Facilities Committee as well as the Finance Committee, and I'm currently chairman of the Finance Committee. Since I've been on the board, we've had a lot of improvements, upgrades, additions. Just to go through a couple of them. I don't know if you've seen in the lower level the new computer room in the Carnegie Center. It almost looks like an Apple store. We renovated the Sargent Auditorium, and it's constantly being used by the community. Since the early part of this year, we now, instead of charging for DVDs, they're given at no charge, and our circulation as a result this year is up 25%, and not only in DVD category, but every category of books that we lend out. We've made a lot of technological improvements, as you can imagine. With what's going on in technology today, it greatly impacts the library. Some of those are, we're on a schedule now every 4 years. We replace our computers and tablets and update those. We have now access to a huge inventory of ebooks, and we'll soon have a big inventory of streaming. Of course, the big thing this year is the addition to the Meyer branch, which is a $2.8 million venture, which is almost completed. And it will also have a community room. We had sessions with the public as to what they think was important for the addition, and we've added most of those in the expansion. Now, we have not in any way avoided keeping our facilities upgraded. We upgrade all of our facilities almost every year as they are needed. We also, to conserve expenses, have consolidated some of the administrative costs of running our 13 branches. This was not done by chance. For the last 5.5 years I've been on the board, in anticipation of all the things we're going to need to do, we have run a surplus in our budget. So we do things out of money that we have. We do not go out and borrow money. And then what we don't do is almost important as what we do. By that, I mean, as an example, there was a big push this year to have a new administration building. It was going to be sold to us and donated partially to the extent of $200,000. But the fact that the amount that we would have had outlaid did not affect the public, we turned it down. Also, we are constantly being approached for partnerships because of the credibility of the library. And we only do partnerships when we feel that it in some way, shape, or form impacts the public, the taxpayer who pays our bills. Two things that we have gone into partnership is with Jackson Public Schools. We now run the libraries at the high school and at Parkside Junior High School. And finally, up and coming, two major things we will be doing is the automated checkouts. This is an expensive venture, and we are currently studying it. It's about $500,000, but that is a possibility down the road, which will give us an opportunity not only to serve our clients well, but at the same time speed up checkout. And then, of course, within a couple years, we have a new millage that we're going to have to start strategizing about, and we will get started on that pretty soon, because if we don't get the new millage, there won't be a library. So I appreciate your consideration for reappointment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none. Moving on to committee item number 4, which is minutes. A, looking for approval of the minutes. Motion and support. Changes or corrections needed? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Appointments. First appointment up is the airport board. The current member is Mr. Feldberry, and the only applicant that we see printed, Mr. Feldberry. Motion and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. John Feldberry's name will be forwarded to the full board. Hospital Finance Authority. The current members seeking reappointment are Karen Kaufman, Jason Valente, and of course Michael Overton. Julie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Salmon over the weekend, and he did not receive notification that his term had expired, and he is interested in running again. So I would make that nomination per our conversation that I had with him.
Okay, that would fill the 4 slots. Am I assuming that somebody's going to nominate the other 3? Is there support? Support. Motion and support. Other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. 4 names will be forwarded to the full board. The district library, 1 public member, Ted Coleman, is the current member and sole applicant.
I would make that motion to move his name to the full board. Support.
Motion and support. Other nominations from the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Fair board, One public member, it's Tom Finkel's old seat. He did not reapply. The one applicant is James Vitito. Motion and support. Other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. His name will be forwarded. Parks Committee, we have Jan seats and Rush Youngdahl seats. Jan did reapply. Rush Youngdahl did not, and Joseph Beeman is an applicant for his position. Motion and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Those two names will be forwarded. Region 2 Planning Commission is Leland Preble's seat. He did not reapply, and I believe Julie had a conversation and he was not interested in reapplying, correct, Julie?
That is correct.
Okay. We'll have to hold that for advertisement again. Traffic Safety Commission is the same thing. Paul Garcia's seat, he has not reapplied. We do not know if he's going to. That'll be held. And the City Steering Committee, I believe that's a new committee, so there's no current member. John Palachik is the applicant for that. There's support?
Support.
Motion and support. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. We'll forward that name on. Congratulations, John. Okay, that's it for appointments. We've got some to re-advertise. We can talk more about that whole process later, too. I think we need to improve on that. Next up is the airport, the closure of the private railroad crossing onto the airport property. Kent Maurer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
A couple of months ago, we were approached by representatives of Amtrak, and the request was to close a private crossing that formerly served the Taluki parcel, and this is near M60 and Michigan Avenue. It's right at the off-ramp, on-ramp to M60. It's been approved by the airport board in concept, and it's a quick claim deed to MDOT. MDOT is now owning the railroad. From the airport standpoint, it actually will help us out. It is a hazard to us. It's not a crossing we would use during construction, and it is another way into airport property that we would like to, quite frankly, eliminate. So it's our recommendation to close this crossing and award the deed as indicated in your packet to MDOT.
Thanks, Kent. Sounds like pretty much a no-brainer. Dave? Mike, are we sure that would happen here with a quitclaim deed? Would that property in the name of the county or the airport?
That would normally go to the full board.
Full board, right. Well, I think it needs to go on to the full board, so is that the motion, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, is there support? Questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Ken.
Thanks.
Next up is the Friend of the Court quarterly report. Sarah.
Good morning. Okay, starting out, I wanted to follow up with you on our state arrears discharge project. I spoke to you last quarter about this project. We were just commencing some public outreach to try to eliminate some of the arrears that are due to the state of Michigan. Since that last quarterly report, we've successfully discharged approximately $1.2 million in state arrears. So that was a tremendous accomplishment. We focused primarily on prisoners and out-of-state bench warrant cases, seeing that most prisoners don't have the capacity to earn, so they would be most likely great candidates for this project. Our second wave is going to be focusing on in-state bench warrant cases and those receiving SSI, because I don't know if any of you are aware, but individuals who are receiving SSI benefits are not garnishable, or we cannot collect their Social Security income as a means for collection of child support. So more than likely they are unable to pay their child support as it stands, so we will be able to successfully discharge more arrears on those cases. And we will continue to work with this project and do public outreach as we go. So Any questions on that? Oh, okay. We also moved forward with changing our core business hours. The front of the court is statutorily required to have 20 hours of non-traditional hours to serve the public. Many counties use the lunch hour as that 20 hours, but we also have our, prior to this change, had our hours of operation a half an hour before and a half an hour later than the standard 8 to 5 shift. What we were finding was that clients were unable to get here, still do the business that they needed to do, and get to work by 8 a.m. So really the extra half hour wasn't of benefit to our clients. So we did shift everything up to 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. to allow that extra hour. So clients could come in right at 7 a.m., get their business done, and still manage to get to work on time and be there for their 8 a.m. start. That's been underway for the last month, and we're finding that our clients are more satisfied with that. They're able to get their business completed and feeling less rushed as a result. Our staff are also happier with that because they didn't care for the 8:30 to 5:30 shift because it created more impact on them to get home to their families at a later time. So we have better staff happiness in that regard too. Our annual retreat is going to be tomorrow, actually. Once a year, our office closes down to go over HPO training, which is part of the county strategic planning. We will be focusing on conflict resolution and good to great planning this year. Last year, our office had this retreat, and it was very, very productive to identify where our staff found ways that we could improve our office. And actually, the change in the core business hours was one of the primary objectives for the staff. So we were happy to make that happen. Additionally, we, effective January 2012, we are going to be reorganizing the supervisory structure of our office. We've found that we're going to be increasing some efficiency through our departments. We currently have 2 program managers, and the departments that they supervise, we're not commingling and able to communicate effectively with each other than if we were to switch the departments and have the program managers supervise different departments. So I attached our new supervisory structure, and you'll find that we're hoping will create some better efficiencies through our office. We're also, as a result of that, going to be developing more office and department goals, and then we've also launched some performance reviews that are going to be conducted every 4 months for all staff relating to those performance goals that we have. So we're going to be closely monitoring, we're going to be setting some goals, and we're going to be achieving them to help improve our client and customer contact. So, finally, an update on our Safe Havens program. Ironically enough, the day after I met with you last time to sign the grant for our grant renewal, the sequestration hit our office and we had to close down the Safe Havens program. All the families were contacted, and it was only for a 2-week period. So fortunately for us, it only resulted in a 1-weekend miss for the families that utilized this. So they were minimally impacted. The families were very understanding, and quite honestly were surprised that this program hadn't been hit sooner. So as soon as we were ready to, or able to open back up for operations, the families got right back into it, and we resumed operations. We now have steps that are being taken to help eliminate or reduce the likelihood that that would happen again. Typically, we don't bill ahead because the grant writers didn't care for that. And since the sequestration, we now are billing ahead and have explained to them, well, since we weren't able to stay in operations because you closed down, we will keep a few months of our billing ahead so that we can manage that. We are having an open house on December 17th from 3 to 5 to display the artwork that Lou Kabeel and the children of the community completed for that Safe Havens program. I don't know if any of you have seen them, but if you go down into the hallway, there's beautiful artwork that the children in the community painted for that center, and it's amazing. So we invite you to attend. Any questions about anything that I covered?
Sarah, just one question for me. On the extended office hours, you've just juggled them and there's no overtime involved with those hours, I assume?
Correct.
Okay.
We have our staff working 7 to 4 a.m. or 7:30 to 4:30 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So.
Commissioners, any other questions on the report? Okay. You've got a reorg chart up too, I think, right?
Yep.
Ruth, if you can hang on just for a second. Sarah, there was a reorg chart that was in your packet too, I think. Is that just informational or?
Yeah, just informational.
Okay, just one request. Could you at some point in time put numbers of staff with that report so we know what the staff is? Thank you. Morning, Ruth.
Good morning. You have my biannual report from equalization. Just a couple things I wanted to point out. On the first page, this is kind of reporting activity. The 4046, the interim status report, and the apportionment report are reports that are due from equalization to the State Tax Commission. Those have all been filed. July Board of Review, the IFT reports, and December Board of Review are all activities that have to do with local assessing. And so that is our activity in local assessing. The next page is kind of a compilation of study and appraisal activity. Residential sales studied at 4524 is a 2-year study this year. This is the first 2-year study we've done for quite a number of years. And with that, 935 of those were from last year. About 3,600 were from this year. So residential sales are up significantly, good residential sales. I do have one correction there. That total parcel visits should be 2670, not 6270. But the total appraisals and real estate sales used to estimate market value this year was 6852, which is up significantly from our lows in 2009. The next page has parcel maintenance activity. This has to do with the number of land divisions and combinations that we process through equalization and the deeds processed. These are not done for the year, but at this time the estimates look like we'll be up 100% from our lows in 2010 with land divisions and combinations, and that should say 60% from our low in 2008 for deeds processed. We still have about 2 months left of process. We'll be getting them in probably through mid-February, I would say. What's new? Sales and appraisal studies for all classes of property have been sent to the local units for review and feedback. I was going to try to get you some updated numbers. I've been gone for the last week on vacation, but when I got in this morning, they were working on my computer and it's gone. So there's nothing to look up. We do have our new assessing specialist starting today. That's Kyle Ogle. She comes to us from the City of Jackson, has been a fee appraiser for 12 years, and now has been in assessing for the last couple. So we're really excited to have her on board. And she'll be starting today, and we'll be working in Norval and Parma Townships. We also have a personal property webinar that the State Tax Commission is going to be putting on, and we are hosting here on the 17th of December for all local assessors. I don't know whether that will extend to neighboring counties or not, but they're going to be putting on a webinar kind of advising assessors of how to process this new personal property exemption. 66% of our overall value in Jackson County is the residential class, and the preliminary res study shows about a 1 to 2% increase overall in assessed values. The next page shows kind of a breakdown of each unit and where we see the values coming in at. The highlighted yellow lines are the ones that I have not gotten feedback yet from. We have to reconcile values by the end of the month and get them to the State Tax Commission for, our final reporting to them by the end of the month. So I would imagine that we'll be getting those wrapped up in about a week. Are there any questions at all for me?
Julie.
Thank you. Have you had the opportunity to visit with the township supervisors at their monthly meetings? And if not, would you make yourself available to do so?
Yeah, I
Thank you.
did end of last year. They did request last month, and unfortunately I wasn't available when they requested. But yes, I do like to go visit with them, and They kind of like to know toward the end of the year or the beginning of the year kind of where values are and what we see coming. And yes, I have spoken with them before and you know, would be available anytime my schedule allows.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth. Next up, we have the Youth Center quarterly report. Jeremy.
Good morning. From January until now, we've had 393 admissions into the youth center. Current population is 23 residents in detention and 10 residents in our residential program. Some exciting news. We do have one resident that is on homebound, and that's the second to last stage in the residential program, where he lives at home during the week, goes to school, and then comes and stays with us on the weekend. And then we have one resident that is essentially on like a homeschool integration, where he stays with us at night, and then in the morning he takes the bus to his local school, and then comes back to us after school, and then on the weekends he can go home. And so again, this is the third step to being done in the residential program. We have two other residents that are waiting in line to get into that homeschool integration. So within the next 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to, as if everything goes well, we're going to have 4 residents that are going to be graduating from the residential treatment program, which we're really excited about. Our average daily population on detention is 24.3. Our maximum capacity is 24. We've just had a large time for an extended period of time where we had overage in our detention facility. The average length of stay is 18.4 days, and that's for our juvenile offenders. If you notice up at the top in detention, we have 5 waiver residents, and those are juveniles being charged as an adult. I did not take those numbers into account for the average length of stay, because those cases just take really, really long time to get through the process into the adult court. Of the 393 admissions, we've had 333 males and 60 females. The last time we were here, we were talking to you about an audio and video upgrade that we had. We have essentially completed that. The video part, they're coming out this week to just finalize and tweak some of the cameras after we've had an opportunity to use them for a couple weeks. But it was an over $60,000 project, where no monies that came from any county budget. It was used through some community grants, as well as then the county's risk insurance provider, the MMRMA, as a safety and security upgrade. I also wanted to introduce to you our new assistant director, Chuck Baker. He has come from us. He's been a county employee for about the last 14 years, and he started out at the youth center as a youth specialist, was our family counselor out there, and then was a probation officer for the last several years. Then came back over into the youth center where he started, and is now the assistant director out there. Because of the many different employee promotions and changes that we have had a large turnover over the last several months, and so we have a new family counselor, and we've had some retirements. So I'm really hoping by the end of this month, we essentially will be back to fully staffed and be ready to start the new year with both feet on the ground. Are there any questions?
Jeremy, just a couple for me. Number one, on your audio and video system, is that just for the security of the facility, or is it used for recording interviews also?
Just for facility, safety and security of the facility.
Okay. And then secondarily, with your numbers of residents, do we rent bed space out, and are any of those numbers included there or not?
I would love to rent bed spaces out, because that helps. I don't have room.
Okay.
Those are all Jackson County residents.
Very good. Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions? Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Sheriff Rand, Summit Township Police Services contract.
I think you have it in front of you. Summit Township, as you know, we've contracted for police service with them since the early 80s. I offered or approached Jim Dunn to extend our contract another 3 years, and fortunately the relationship with them has been so good that he wanted it to go beyond that. He wanted 6 years, so we negotiated, and you can see all the numbers and figures there. We have a 6-year contract that Jim Dunn has signed, I have signed, and are waiting for the approval of the board.
Sheriff, I just had a couple of notes on, how long was the last contract we had with him?
It was 3 or 4 years. I can't remember, it's one of those two.
And I kind of looked through the numbers, it looks like it's a 1% increase built in for each year.
Yes.
What is the increase for the first year over the last year, or the last contract? The first year of it, is it a 1% increase?
1%, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm curious if the Administrator's Office of the Finance Department has reviewed the numbers. I can't remember what our last pay increases were, but it seems like they were 2 or 3%. Have you gone through the numbers, or if I could beg to ask you that, and if you're supportive of this?
I'm supportive of the contract. I have not seen the numbers. They were putting them together for us. Have you seen them yet? Pardon me? When did you get them? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm still supportive of sending it out to the full board. Maybe we can have the numbers before the board meeting, so. I think that is my only question. Any other commissioners with questions on the contract? Be looking for a motion to send it to the full board? Motion and support. Questions or comments?
No, just to note that on board docs, it does not state that it's going to the full board,
I'm sorry, it does not say what, Julie?
that it goes to the full board, just for that reference.
I think it does, in fact, go to the full board, though, does it not? Right, okay.
I'm just,
Yep,
thank you.
And
very
just,
good. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Go ahead,
I could
Chief.
make one comment?
Certainly.
Just because something changed, I spoke with Adam about this last week. We went from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan. Our costs will actually probably either stay the same or maybe even be reduced as employees that start. Typically, we have newer employees out of Summit Township, so their costs may actually be lower. And we did look at this a couple different ways. We're more than adequately covered here. So.
Okay, thank you. Now you have the bid exception request for the 911 project.
Right. We've removed any language in reference to any specific facility. This is the same documents you saw 2 months ago that were tabled. We have the bid exception putting AT&T in charge of the kind of the brains of the 911 system, mostly because we would like everything from where this information comes from Grand Rapids, the anti-alien information, right up to our consoles, to be one person, so we have one point of contact if anything should go wrong, which it does from time to time. That was the bid exception we were requesting, and then also approval for putting the RFPs out for the furniture and the carpet, and one other item here. And that's all listed within the document you have in front of you. And if you want to see the actual RFPs, we have those available, but they're about 80 pages, so that'll be available to you.
No, thank you for me. I just had a couple of questions. I'll be supportive of it in the end, but I'm not real crazy. I had voiced apprehensions before about doing the bid exception. I think the more appropriate thing to do would have been to bid it out, and I'm not sure how many other providers there are that could do it, but we certainly could make that argument after the bids came back. I think that would have kept the price down. I also before had mentioned my retroactive thought that I wish we had applied for grants on it, and I know that there were comments in your documents about there'll be sufficient funds left to complete a radio project, or there was some wording to that if there is one, but I do have concerns and issues with the radio system itself that I know this doesn't address that, but so I've got those concerns with it. I'll still be supportive of it because I know it needs to be done, and I'm a little apprehensive on the bid exception. But
For what it's worth, the product, no matter which you choose, which vendor you choose to sell you the product, you're getting the same product. There's a handful of reputable vendors or reputable products out there that deal with the type of things that this deals with. So it would just be we'd be buying it from AT&T so that we didn't have to work with a third party to determine if there was a problem with the system.
well, and that goes to my last point is, or question. I'm hopeful that our IT department was involved in the coordination of this, and I'm assuming that they're supportive of this as well. Mike?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions on the request? And if not, we'd be looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase, installation, and outfitting of 911 call handling and trunk equipment through AT&T and send it to the full board.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support, and I think this would be inclusive of the bid exception requirement. I'm assuming you're asking for that in the same package, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Oh, you've got one more thing, I think. Well, I guess this would be inclusive. Proceed with publishing the RFPs. That was part of it as well. Correct? Okay. Yeah, we had you for 3 separate issues on the agenda. Last, under committee items, is item J, which was added this morning. It's the LDFA reports. It didn't make it on the original agenda. Debbie had actually emailed that back on November 19th. She's way too efficient for us. So Adam added it this morning, so we have the Blackman and Parma, I believe, LDFA reports that are on board docs. And I've also emailed them to you individually.
Good
Amy.
morning. Well, I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to review them ahead of time, but with the Enterprise Group just reporting to you on Friday, much of the information that's included in here you're already aware of. I thought one thing on the Blackman LDFA report that I would make you aware of that we didn't cover too much on Friday is the Baker College Business Technology Center incubator. We, thanks to the generous donation of Baker College, have 2 offices out there that we operate as an incubator. We've graduated 2 companies from that incubator, and we do get funding called the Business Accelerator Fund, funding through the MEDC that we're able to help incubator tenants and other qualified companies through engagements to help launch entrepreneurial activity for their businesses. We are trying to find qualified candidates to occupy that space, so I wanted to make you aware of that. In your travels, if you speak to people that are starting businesses in IT or high technology, please send them my way so we can see if they might be a good fit. And along those lines also, I attended along with Baker College a tour of several incubators in Ann Arbor on Friday. Some operated through Ann Arbor Spark, some through the University of Michigan. One is a makerspace affiliated with Zingerman's. Very interesting, somewhat duplicative and competitive in some ways, I think. So we took some good notes, and hopefully we'll have some good successes as a result of that tour. And I would be happy to answer any questions on either Blackman. There's also, as you review these when you get a chance, details on how many inquiries. We had 53 attraction inquiries this year, and it explains how many were related to both Blackman and Parma, LDFAs, and also how many hits they got on the Michigan Economic Developers Association website.
Thank you, Amy. Commissioners, any questions on the report? Nothing to approve, but breezing through them, they're very good reports. We've seen most of the information, so. Steve?
You mentioned graduation of 2 businesses out of your Baker College incubator. Have they stayed in Jackson County, and are they part of our business community, and could you name them?
Yes, Local Logic Media is a website developer, and they started with less than 5 employees when they entered the incubator, and they now have 12. They are downtown and are expanding and building onto their existing building. And that was their goal, was to graduate and come to downtown Jackson, so that's a great success story. The other company is Codian Robotics, who came in and needed an office, and he gained some really successful sales contracts and robotics contracts with his European parent company, and has also graduated, and also works out of a Jackson office.
Amy, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the agenda items. We have claims up under other business. We can get a motion on claims. Anybody?
Move to pay the claims.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes and the January reporting schedule you have. We're back to public comment. You have 3 minutes, public, for any comments. Hearing none. Committee member comments. Just one comment from me. I talked to, Julie after her email last night after calling up some of the appointees for the appointments, and then I talked with Mike this morning about the process. We've got to make sure we do a better job of networking out in the community to get appointees or applicants for these positions and making sure that the current people in the positions are notified when the seats are coming up vacant. So we've been carrying some of these over month after month. So any other comments from the committee? Julie, you look like you have something on your mind. No? Okay. Well, I do, but no. Okay. We are adjourned.